Most men don't open up about their feelings, not because they don't have any, but because they're terrified you won't like what's really inside. But here's the secret: if you do this one thing, you'll stop pulling at words he doesn't want to give, and he'll actually run to share them with you. Think about it. How often do we push someone to talk, only to watch them shut down? It's not because they don't care. It's because the way we try to get feelings out of them makes them feel trapped. The truth is, the more you pressure him to explain, the less he trusts it's safe. But when you create an environment where he feels no judgment, no agenda, just curiosity, suddenly he talks, not because you forced it, but because he wants to. And if you've ever felt frustrated because you can't read what's going on in his head, stay with me until the end of this, because I'm going to give you a simple strategy that changes the way men open up forever. Ladies, let me share something with you. Men are not hard to understand because they have nothing to say. They feel hard to read because they spent their whole lives being told, don't talk too much, don't cry, don't show your feelings, don't reveal your heart unless you are sure it's safe. So when you're sitting there trying to figure out what's happening inside his head and all you hear is silence, don't trick yourself into thinking that silence means nothing. A man's emotions are like water behind a wall. You may not see it moving, but the pressure builds up every single day. And when it finally comes out, it rushes like a flood. You ever notice a man stare at you just a second longer than usual? That wasn't meaningless. Or maybe you've seen him check in just to ask how you're doing, even though he doesn't do that with everybody else. That wasn't nothing either. The truth is, men don't always say things directly. Sometimes his I love you shows up as did you reach home safely. Sometimes his I miss you sounds like have you eaten yet. Real men speak a whole different kind of language. And if you're sitting around waiting for a movie stock confession, you might miss the real truth standing right in front of you. The good news is there is a way to get him to open up. And I don't mean by pushing him, playing tricks, or testing him. I mean creating the kind of bond where he feels so safe, so sure, and so comfortable that he can finally put into words what he has been holding back for so long. Because believe me, men want to be understood, just like women do. They want someone to listen to them, but they're not going to hand that side of themselves to someone who feels unsafe. They give that part to the woman who makes them believe their truth will be heard, not judged. And once you understand how to unlock that door, he won't just step through it, he'll bring his whole heart along with him. Stop trying to complete his sentences for him. Ladies, let me give you one of the main reasons why so many women never truly hear what a man feels. You keep filling in the blanks for him. You've got a whole story running in your head, and before he can even finish 2 sentences, you've already written the ending. You're thinking, oh, I know where this is going, or he's probably thinking this, or that must mean something else. And meanwhile, he's sitting there wondering why he even bothers explaining himself when you've already decided what he means. The truth about men is, we take more time to process emotions than you might think, not because we're slow, but because most of us were never taught how to speak the language of feelings. We were raised to fix, to do, to solve, not to share emotions. So when you ask a man something deep, you've got to give him space to arrive there. You can't rush in, finish his thought, and then act on whatever you assumed he meant. That's like cutting off a GPS halfway through the directions and then being upset when you get lost. A man needs to feel like his words truly matter. If you keep interrupting with, I know what you're about to say, you're basically telling him his voice doesn't count, and once he feels unheard, guess what? He'll stop talking. Because what's the point of sharing something personal if the other person isn't even listening for real? Let me paint a picture. Imagine you're at work and your boss asks for your opinion. You open your mouth to answer, but they cut you off and finish your thought. Even if they guessed right, you're going to feel like, well, why bother next time? That's exactly how a man feels when you keep filling in the blanks. This isn't about pride, it's about respect. Respect says I value your words enough to hear them all the way. Now, I know some of you are thinking, if I don't help him, he'll never get to the point. And yes, some men do take the long way around with their words. But that's okay. Let him. Because the goal isn't speed, the goal is depth. If you want quick surface level answers, rush him. But if you want the truth, wait for it. And here's another piece. Filling in the blanks usually says more about your worry than about his clarity. Many times you're not reacting to what he actually said. You're reacting to what you're scared he might say. That fear makes you want to take control of the conversation, so you don't have to hear something uncomfortable. But here's the problem. You may avoid discomfort, but you also block real closeness. True connection only happens when you let him speak honestly. Even if it's slow, even if it's not what you were expecting, you've got to master the pause. Ask your question, then stop. Don't rephrase it 3 different ways. Don't give him multiple choice options. Don't hint at the answer you want to hear. Just pause. That silence you feel is awkward. That's him gathering the courage to speak his truth. Men aren't used to being asked how they feel and then being given space to actually answer. For many of us, it's new ground. So if you want the real answer, you've got to be the one who makes that space safe. And let me tell you what happens when you stop filling in the blanks. You'll hear things you never expected. You'll hear about moments he replays in his head that you didn't even know mattered to him. You'll hear about doubts and insecurities he's carried for years but never told anyone. You'll hear how he notices little details about you that you thought went unseen, but you'll never hear any of that if you keep pushing him to the finish line. The truth is, men open up more when they feel like their voice counts in the relationship. And the way you give a man that voice is by listening without guessing. You may think you know where he's going with his words, but trust me, if you let him get there himself, he'll take you into parts of his heart you didn't even know were there. That's the reward of patience. That's the strength of holding your tongue long enough to let him finish. And once you learn that, that's when he'll start telling you what he really feels. Build a safe space, not a courtroom. Ladies, here's the truth about men. If you want him to open up about what's really in his heart, you cannot make the talk feel like he's under trial. You can't be the judge, the lawyer, and the jury at the same time. The moment a man feels like every word he says will be cross-examined, he'll shut down. Not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't feel safe. Men share themselves fully only where they feel there's no punishment for honesty. If he knows that one wrong sentence could turn into a 3-hour argument, or that you'll use his words against him next week, he'll start giving you the safest, vaguest, most empty answers he can think of. And you'll be sitting there thinking he's emotionally closed off, when really he's just protecting himself from emotional backlash. A safe space doesn't mean you agree with everything he says. It means you can hear him out without blowing up. It means you can pause before reacting. It means you're listening to understand, not just waiting to reply. Because when a man sees you can handle his truth without turning it into a weapon, that's when he'll start giving you the real parts of himself. Now, I know some women say, I don't blow up, I just tell him how I feel, and I believe that. But it's not just the words, it's how you say them, your tone, your body language, even your eyes, they all send signals. You can say, it's fine, tell me the truth. But if your face is saying, I'm about to explode, he won't feel safe enough to open up. Think about it like this. If you tell a child, you can tell me anything, but then yell at them the second they admit they messed up, what do you think will happen next time? They'll keep it to themselves. Men operate the same way. If he shares something and you react with judgment, sarcasm, or punishment, you've taught him to keep that side of himself locked up. Safe space is built on trust and respect. And trust isn't built in a single deep talk. It's built slowly, over time, by consistently showing him that his feelings won't be dismissed, laughed at, or used against him. That means if he shares something small, you don't mock it. You don't call him weak for saying it. And you definitely don't compare it to what someone else did. You acknowledge it, you validate it, and you appreciate that he chose to share it. Let me be clear. Creating a safe space doesn't mean letting him off the hook when he's wrong. You can still hold him accountable. But there's a huge difference between accountability and attack. Accountability says, I hear you, And here's how that affects me. Attack says, "You're wrong, you're selfish, you're bad." One invites more conversations, the other shuts the door. Most men are not raised to be vulnerable. Some of them have gone years, even decades, without really saying how they feel. That's why when you create a space where they can finally be real, it's like oxygen. It's rare, and because it's rare, they'll protect it and they'll want to keep coming back to it. That's when you'll see them open up more and more without you having to push. So when you're with him, check yourself. Are you listening to understand or just to catch him in something? Are you giving him a chance for honesty, or are you setting up a moment for defense? That difference can decide whether he ever tells you how he truly feels, because at the end of the day, a man won't reveal his soul to someone who makes him feel like he's walking into a courtroom. But if you give him a place where he feels heard, not judged, you'll hear things from him that he's never said to anyone else. Here's something important to understand about men. We don't just listen to what you say, we pay attention to what you do. If your actions don't match your words, we notice. You can tell a man all day, "You can trust me, you can open up to me," but if your behavior shows the opposite, he's not going to risk it. Men may not always talk about emotions, but they know when a safe space isn't actually safe. When a man finally opens up and shares something personal, he's watching carefully to see what happens next. Do you keep it private between the two of you, or do you run and share it with your friends? Do you respond with care, or do you throw it back at him in the next fight? If he learns that opening up leads to embarrassment, gossip, or judgment, he'll shut that door tight. And once it's locked, it takes a lot of time and effort to open it again. Men need proof that you mean what you say. If you tell him, "I want to hear how you feel," then when he finally does share, you can't act shocked, angry, or disappointed because it wasn't the answer you were hoping for. That's like inviting someone to your house, then slamming the door in their face when they arrive. If you want his truth, you have to be ready to accept all of it, not just the parts that make you feel good. Consistency matters more than anything. If you react calmly one time but then explode the next, he won't know which version of you he's going to get. And men don't gamble with their emotions like that. They'll pick silence over unpredictability every single time. But when your actions keep showing that you can handle his truth without turning it against him, that's when he starts to trust you with deeper things. Let me give you a real story. I know a man who told his girlfriend something very personal about his childhood, something he'd never told anyone before. She comforted him in that moment, but a few weeks later they had a fight, and she brought it up to win the argument. Do you think he ever told her anything that real again? Absolutely not. And it wasn't because he stopped loving her, it was because her actions proved that his truth wasn't safe with her. Matching your actions with your words works both ways. If you say you don't want drama, but you create drama every time he says something you don't like, that's a contradiction. If you say you want honesty, but punish honesty when it's inconvenient, that's also a contradiction. Men notice those things. They might not always call you out on it, but they'll remember, and they'll adjust how much they share. On the other hand, when your actions consistently match your words, it builds a powerful kind of trust. When you keep his personal stuff private, when you listen without judgment, when you show you can disagree without disrespect, you're telling him through your actions, your feelings are safe here. And when a man truly believes that, he'll hand you the keys to parts of himself he's never shown anyone else. You also need to pay attention to the little things. Sometimes it's not the big betrayals that shut a man down, it's the small, repeated moments where he feels dismissed. Rolling your eyes while he's explaining something, looking at your phone while he's talking, laughing at something he takes seriously. Those little signals quietly tell him what you're saying doesn't really matter. And that can hurt just as much as the bigger things. And believe me, he notices that loud and clear. At the end of the day, lining up your actions with your words is about being the kind of person he can truly depend on. If you say you're a safe space for his emotions, then you need to live that every single day, not only when it suits you, because a man will only keep opening up if your behavior keeps proving again and again that you can handle the real version of him, not just the easy to love version. Use the strength of patience, ladies. Let me share something important about men. You can't force us to reveal our hearts any quicker than you can force a seed to instantly become a tree. It's not that we want to annoy you, it's just that emotions for many men take time to process and even longer to put into words. If you push too quickly, you'll likely get one of two things: either a shallow response just to quiet you down, or complete silence. Neither gives you the honesty you're hoping for. Patience works like slow dripping water on stone. It shapes it over time, not by force. When you allow a man to feel his emotions without pressure or a countdown hanging over his head, you give him the freedom to be authentic. A lot of men grew up in environments where we were told to hold everything in. Don't cry, don't talk about it, just deal with it. So when we finally meet someone who genuinely wants to understand what's inside us, we have to unlearn years of hiding. That doesn't change overnight. Men open up in layers. At first he might make a joke, give a short reply, or steer the conversation away. That's not because he doesn't care. It's because he's testing if he can trust you with more. He's thinking, if I share a little, how will she react? If your response is calm and patient, if you don't demand more right away, he begins to feel, maybe I can share a little more next time. It's a gradual process, not a quick test. I know it's hard. When you care deeply, you want to know what's in his heart now. You want to solve what's wrong, connect deeper, be allowed in. But true closeness doesn't grow by forcing someone to meet your timing. It grows by respecting theirs. And here's the twist. When a man feels that you honor the pace he needs, he'll actually open up faster because he's not resisting pressure. Think of it like cooking a slow meal. You can't blast the heat and expect a roast to turn out perfect in half the time. Sure, it will cook, but it'll come out tough, dry, missing the flavor it should have. Love and trust are the same. They need slow heat to truly come alive. I knew a woman who often asked her partner, "Why won't you just tell me how you feel?" She asked again and again every few days. The man truly cared for her, but each time she pushed, he felt trapped. Instead of opening up, he pulled away. She assumed he didn't love her, but in truth, he only needed her to let him get there on his own. Once she stopped pressing and instead started being present, laughing with him, listening without trying to dig, making things light instead of heavy, he opened up. And when he finally did, it wasn't just a sentence, it was a flood. He told her things he had never told anyone else, and the reason was simple. Her patience showed him that he was safe, that he had control over his own story. Men don't forget women who give them that kind of room. It's rare, it's precious, and it's unforgettable. Good, they do that. They lay system, circum justice. Unforgettable isn't something it's not meant. It's disappointment and unforgettable. But patience isn't the same as doing nothing. It's about showing up with intention without forcing a result. It's letting your calm, steady presence be the quiet invitation for him to step forward. The beauty of patience is that it doesn't just give him time, it gives him the chance to reveal his true self, not the version he puts on when he feels pressured. And once a man shows you his real self, that's when he's truly yours for the long run. Now let's talk about being seen. Ladies, here's a secret most men carry inside. One of our deepest desires is not just to be loved, it's to be noticed, to feel recognized beyond the surface, not just for what we do, but for who we are. Many men go through life feeling unseen. We go to work, handle responsibilities, wear the strong face, and most of the time no one pauses to say, "I see you. I notice the effort you're making. I see the load you carry." Being seen is not about flattery. It's about real recognition. When a man feels you genuinely see him in the small ways, in the quiet sacrifices, It tells him he's more than just a role in your life. He's someone you truly value. That feeling is one of the fastest ways to open his heart. If you want him to share his feelings, start by showing that you notice the things he assumes no one notices. When he fixes something in the house without being asked, say something. When he's had a long day yet still tries to show up for you, let him know you appreciate it. Men don't often ask for praise, but when they receive it, it sinks deep. And here's the amazing part. If you see him in the little things, he'll trust you with the big ones. A friend once told me his wife was the first person in his entire life to say, "I'm proud of you," for something that wasn't about money or work. She said she was proud of how he handled a tough talk with his son. He said that compliment hit him harder than any other he had ever received. Why? Because she saw his character, not just his achievements. When you see a man for who he really is, you give him permission to stop performing. He doesn't need to wear a mask around you or act like he's fine all the time. That's when he starts sharing the things he wouldn't dare say to anyone else. Because if you already see him and still love him, then maybe his deepest truth won't drive you away. But here's where people sometimes go wrong. They think seeing someone is just about noticing when they look attractive or when they accomplish something big. That's not it. Truly seeing someone means noticing even in ordinary moments, when life is calm, when nothing special is happening. It means catching those times when he's sitting quietly and gently asking, "What's on your mind?" in a way that shows care, not pressure. It also means recognizing the walls he has. Every man has them. And when you see through those walls, not to break them down, but to show him you know they exist, you're saying, "I'm not scared of the real you."